Hi, this is Katie Jost, and the 6 to 12 level lesson that I'm going to be talking about today is finding the area of a rectangle and square. The prerequisites to this lesson for the students to have a understanding of basic shapes, such as the rectangle and square, basic numbers, and also addition and multiplication. The goals of this lesson are just to be able to learn the basics of finding the area of a rectangle and a square. So anticipated questions that I foresee some students asking will be something like, does it matter what is base and which one's height? Or why do they have the same formula for different shapes? So for the first question, I would explain that it doesn't matter what's base and what's height, just because finding the area is basically just a multiplication, and you can flip around either way and you're still going to get the same answer. But then for why does the square and rectangle have the same equation for area, even though they're different shapes, I would explain that although they are different shapes, the square is basically just a special type of rectangle. It just so happens that it's special only because the sides are all equal, even though the other rectangles usually have two that are equal and then two that are also equal but not equal to the other two sides, if that makes sense. So for the warm-up activity, we would practice doing a round the world multiplication game to review basic multiplication for finding the areas of the rectangles and squares. For the instruction, I would give the formula for finding the area of rectangles and squares, which is length times width, and discuss which one is base and which one is height. So for squares, it's length times width, so the length is 4 units, and then one of these small squares equals 1 unit. So length is 4 units and the width is 4 units. So you just times 4 by 4 and then you get 16. And then for rectangle, you do the same thing. So the width is 5 of these units and the length is 8 of these units. And when you multiply them by each other, the area is 40 units. For the discussion, I would let students ask any questions that they had, and I would ask the class if they understood what was going on during the lesson. And if nobody was really raising their hand or asking any questions, I might give example questions for them to answer and maybe have some students come to the board and show the class how they did it, just to make sure that the discussion was going smoothly. And then I would review the questions as a class and then explain how they can have the same formula for the different shapes. So then for the hands-on activity, I would give students a worksheet of problems for finding area of both the rectangle and squares. So just to show, this is just an example of the area of the squares worksheet, so very basic. And this is the rectangle worksheet, which is also very basic. And then for the wrap-up activity, I would go over the answers on the worksheets that they just completed, so they could use that to help them with their homework worksheets. So then the homework would just be more worksheets on finding the areas of the rectangles and squares. And then for the next day review, we would just review the homework that they did the night before, and then probably just give a very brief quiz on the lesson. That's it. Thanks.